Let's get into some winners and losers. We'll start first with the Chiefs, and then we'll move on to the Niners. If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, who's the biggest winner and who's the biggest loser?
Ooh, biggest winner. Like, we're not going to go over this. You just talked about Andy Reid and his legacy, Patrick Mahomes' his legacy. So 1 and 2 there. So for me, honestly, it's I'm going to say Pat Mahomes for doing it twice now with Tyreek Hill. But I won't go on and on and on. So I'm going to just choose somebody out of the blue. And I'm going to say Steve Spagnuolo. Simply because, right? Yeah. I don't want to rehash.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't want to rehash, going over. We just went over Andy Reid. We just went over Patrick Mahomes. So, like, Steve Spagnuolo, and this playoff run more so than any other, and this entire season without the offense being anything good, has shown me what a great defensive coordinator Steve is. And before, I used to have my doubts about him because, like, on third down, he's going to blitz. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But no, his disguises and what he's done and his adjustments to team by team by team. Like, you tricking Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson into throwing the football and not being who you are is the greatest deception I've ever seen in the history of deception. Like, I could not believe it. I sat down to watch that Baltimore game, and all the Chiefs did was put 7 and 8 small players in the box and say, hey, look at this box. We have a lot of people in this box. You can't run the football. But it's like, haha, I fooled you. They're all defensive backs, and we can go and cover whatever we do. So you really should have ran the football. Like, yeah, Steve Spagnuolo is really good. And I think if they win, sorry, I'm not going to say when. If they win, I think Spags has really, improved increased his legacy as a great defensive coordinator. Maybe not as so much as a head coach, but good to see.
Man, you guys read my answer. I got to go with Spags as well. Now, I'll bring up a couple of different points. I think with the Spag, he's going to earn himself a lot of money as a head coach. And that could be with the Chiefs. Let's say they win this year, add a receiver like Mike Evans or draft a receiver, and they solidify that offense. And then going into next year, they three-peat. Because look, and real quick, going back to what Jerm was saying earlier, not only does Pat Mahomes have to win more rings than Tom Brady, I think he has to do something that Tom Brady never did, which is three-peat in the NFL. And that's unheard of. That's unprecedented, right? And so I think if he were to win more rings, were you going to say something?
Yeah, not to tell you what, I was going to say, so this is my belief about the Chiefs, just real quick. The reason why I say Pat Mahomes doesn't need more rings than Tom, despite the fact that he lost Super Bowl to Tom Brady. If the Chiefs win this Super Bowl, the most beatable, the most vulnerable they've ever been, I'm going to be very hard-pressed to find anybody that can beat them next year because they're going to get better next year. They're not going to be bad next year.
Right.
If the Chiefs three-peat, which it's likely, you're talking about the first three-peat ever. We've seen teams go to 3 straight Super Bowls. We've never seen a team win 3 straight Super Bowls. So if Pat Mahomes has...
Germ can top you. He's lost 4 straight. Tell him, Germ.
I wasn't trying to go there, Germ. That's crazy. I wasn't trying to go there, bro.
Good night, y'all. Hey, I'll see y'all later, man.
I wasn't trying to do like that, bro. I was just trying to prove a point. If the Chiefs win 3 in a row, we're talking the first ever three-peat, and then we would be talking what? We'd be talking that'd be 5 appearances in 7 years, 4 wins in 5. Like they'd be 4, like a three-peat in the NFL, bro. We're not talking a three-peat in the NBA. We're talking a three-peat in the NFL, bro. A three-peat in the NFL as a quarterback with all of his greatness. That is why I think he doesn't need more rings. If he gets to 3 in a row, 3 in a row, all he has to do is not be garbage the rest of his life and continue on this and continue to be elite, to continue to be a 4,700-yard passer and, 30, somewhere around 25, 30 touchdowns, whatever it is. He's good. That three-peat is the key. If they three-peat, we're just going to be counting the days away before it's time for us to officially anoint Mahomes to go. I just want to throw that out there real quick. Go ahead.
That's very fair. I think it's very valid. I agree with what you're saying, Dwayne. But going back to what I was saying, I think with the Spags, let's say they do three-peat, right? And let's say Andy Reid decides to, ride off into the sunset after that three-peat. Steve could be the next head coach of the Chiefs or Eric Bieniemy, who knows? But if the defense is looking like this again next year and they three-peat and the defense is better than the offense, then Steve, whether it's with the Chiefs or another team in the NFL, he's going to be a head coach again, fresh off a three-peat. He's going to be one of the highest paid. Who knows? I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. But Dwayne, like you said, there's a lot for him to gain. And we can go on and on about how the defense has performed. They've defeated 3 straight heavyweights, AFC heavyweights, and the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Ravens. They all had elite
We
offenses.
did not just call.
Dolphins were middleweights.
I was about to no.
Okay, middleweight, middle of heavyweight, but they were definitely weight, right?
Lightweight.
Lightweight,
right? I'll go with
maybe they're heavyweights if all the games were played in Miami. Maybe.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. And so for me, if the Chiefs win, Steve Spags got to be my biggest winner.
So this is between the Niners, or I'm just doing the Chiefs here.
We're doing Chiefs now, and then we'll do Niners.
Okay. So the biggest winner, yeah, it would have to be Spags. There's nothing like we already talked about. I mean, I guess really it's Andy, right? Or I guess if Mahomes is chasing Brady, but Spags could get a head coaching job, as Steezy was saying. So he literally has the most to gain because Mahomes and Reed aren't going to go anywhere. Spags can elevate his status, literally elevate his status
and his pockets
and his pockets. So
yeah.
it can't get no better for anybody other than Spags at this point. So I think I'm going to go with him too.
So I agree. So we're just going to jump right into losers. My biggest loser, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, I really want to say it's Kyle. I want to say it's Kyle Shanahan, but there is a bigger loser in my opinion than Kyle Shanahan, and it's Eric Bieniemy. And here's why. Eric Bieniemy bet on himself this season. He left Kansas City to go to Washington, a team that obviously was not going into next season with Ron Rivera. And between the decision to sign with Washington and 36 hours ago, Eric Bieniemy doesn't have a home right now. And we are a couple days removed from potentially the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. And I want to be crystal clear. If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, it is going to be because of the defense. Pat Mahomes is exceptional. Andy Reid is exceptional. Travis Kelce is exceptional. All-time greats, yes. But when you are on the football field across from Christian McCaffrey, who's the best in the league, best in the business, George Kittle, one of the best in the business, Trent Williams, the best in the business, Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, two of the best in the business, your defense has to be locked in. Steve Spagnuolo, with a win on Sunday, undeniably becomes the heir apparent to Andy Reid when he decides to hang it up. Yeah. And if the Chiefs win on Sunday, Andy can decide to hang it up on Monday.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to repeat. He can hang it up on Monday, which means that you don't, and we just said he's going to make a lot of money. Why would the Chiefs want to let Steve Spagnuolo walk out the door when they can pay him to stay and be the head coach? I think about what happened in New England. Josh McDaniels, we all assumed would be the next head coach for the Patriots. But then he left and he came back. He was okay. But then he left again. And it was all kind of puzzling until we found out when Gerard Mayo got promoted that the reason why is because in Gerard Mayo's one of his contract extensions, it was in his contract that when Bill was done, it would be him. Josh McDaniels obviously found out about that. He said, well, since I'm not going to be the guy, I'm going to leave. I'm not saying that this is what exactly happened with Eric Bieniemy, but I'd like to think that because of how successful the offense had been and because of how successful Pat Mahomes had been, Eric Bieniemy assumed that he would be the new head coach, rightfully so. And at some point between then and the decision to leave, that was no longer the case. And so he left. Matt Nagy came back to Andy Reid, was the OC. This offense was the worst it's ever been in the Pat Mahomes era, and the defense was the best it's ever been in the Pat Mahomes era. And now Steve Spagnuolo is the heir apparent to Andy Reid. Eric Bieniemy went from being the offensive coordinator for potentially the greatest quarterback ever to not having a job today. And with all the head coaching vacancies filled, he's going to have to probably wait a year to become a head coach again. And if he does become a head coach, he ain't going to be coaching Pat Mahomes. He's not going to be coaching a Super Bowl contender, most likely. So Eric Bieniemy, undeniably, if the Chiefs win on Sunday, Eric Bieniemy is the biggest loser, in my opinion.
I can't disagree with that take, and I'm going to add to it further. I think Eric Bieniemy's head coaching candidacy is over. Like if you haven't gone to any of these jobs over the last 5 years, and now you're not even an offensive coordinator right now, I think you're done. And I honestly believe his past and whatever he does in interviews is just not sitting well with head coaches because we can't. I hate to say this, but we can't play the race card with Bieniemy anymore because we've seen all of the minority hires and they're still not Bieniemy. So like, there's obviously a reason that these owners and GMs are straying away from Bieniemy. So I like your take there, Dwayne. So if the San Francisco 49ers lose, and they have the best roster in the league for the last 2 years, in my estimation, it's going to be because, again, like you said, Spags tricked somebody. And if that's the case, then it means that Kyle Shanahan once again got in his own way and decided not to run the football because he's going to see a loaded box with a bunch of small players and says, hey, look what I can do, and go in this 21 personnel and try to go match up. I'm not going to sit here and say Kyle Shanahan losing the Super Bowl is going to be a huge thing against him, because I think only 21 coaches have ever won the Super Bowl, and like 13 of them have multiple. So it's like the Super Bowl is not like shared around like amongst a bunch of people. But what I will say is if these 49ers lose, it's because Kyle Shanahan strayed away from what his offense dictates, and what it dictates is that line of scrimmage play. Like, you dictate to them, you run the football, and you are hard to stop, and everything else should come off the play action. And if you lose, it means that Spags tricked you into not running the football again. And so the biggest loser, I'm going to keep this short, will be Kyle Shanahan for losing 2 Super Bowls in 5 years and not sticking to the offensive script of giving Christian McCaffrey the ball three downs out of 4.
To the same team.
To the same team.
Crazy. Ooh, that'd be backbreaking. I would like to say Kyle Shanahan for me is an honorable mention. I might sound a little crazy for this, but I got to go with Brock Purdy. And I want to point out to Justin what you said, and Jeremy, I love that you agree. You said that the Niners have had the most stacked roster in football the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And Dwayne, earlier in the show, you said that Brock Purdy, he's in MVP conversations, right? Maybe not by your estimation, but
yeah, he's a finalist, so he's
a finalist, right?
Yeah.
And everyone is talking about how he's much more than a game manager, how he's this top 10 quarterback. Well, if he has the best roster in football and the best offensive mind in football and the best running back in football and one of the best tight ends in football and the best left tackle in football and one of the best, I can go on and on. If he has that and a Chiefs team that doesn't have the most elite of offenses, if he can't beat this team, I understand the defense is a force to be reckoned with, but like you guys said, this is the most vulnerable the Chiefs have been. And so if he has the most stacked roster in football, he's an MVP finalist. Everyone is saying that he's more than a game manager, and he can't get over the hump.
Not everyone, but continue.
Not everyone, but most people. I think he's more than a game manager, to be quite honest with you guys. I really do think he's above. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, not yet, but I do think he's above, and he's a lot more than just a game manager. But I think that
I'll see an above average quarterback. I'll say that.
Okay, let's say that. I think that's fair. But if the Kansas City Chiefs were to win this, Brock Purdy will be my biggest loser, because it's like you have everything in place for you to win and you don't end up doing it. It sounds harsh because it's only his second year in the NFL starting, but I got to go with Brock Purdy.
Let me play devil's advocate real quick before Jerm jumps in, because I think that the Brock Purdy point is interesting, and I assumed Jerm would make the point. I didn't expect Steezy to. Here's my thing with Brock Purdy, and I don't disagree with you that it would obviously hurt Brock Purdy, but what I will say is the same people that right now hate that people hold on, like the Brock Purdy haters hold on to him being picked last. They're the exact same people who, if the Niners lose, are going to say, yeah, well, Mr. Irrelevant can't lose a Super Bowl because he was the last pick in the draft. Oh, we're past that, though. We're past that. He was last pick in the draft last year. We're past that. He started his career undefeated. He had a freak accident in last year's NFC Championship game. Again, he likely would have won if he didn't get hurt against the Eagles. He came back. The entire team talked trash. The entire team. Maybe he didn't, but Debo was running his mouth for sure. And so were a couple others. All throughout the course of the year. George Kittle had the F Dallas shirt on in their game. Like they were running it up. And they made it back. If Brock Purdy now, who I agree, he's not an elite quarterback, but he's not a game manager. There's a very thin line between elite and game manager. And he straddles that line because he did not look good in the first 3 quarters of the game against the Lions. He didn't look good in the first 58 minutes of the game against the Packers the week before. Just saying. If Brock Purdy loses, we have to finally admit that Brock Purdy is just a better Jimmy G. A quarterback who's good at his job. Better at his job than Jimmy G was. Jimmy G's only job in San Francisco was to not turn the ball over and make big throws when it mattered. Jimmy G couldn't do that. Brock Purdy doesn't turn the ball over. He makes big throws when it matters.
He's more mobile.
He loses, and he's more mobile. But if he loses the Super Bowl, then obviously that model of being a quarterback who makes the big throws when it matters and doesn't turn the ball over is not a recipe for success, which takes me back to my point at the top of the show. If that happens, Kyle Shanahan might have to get the boot because this is Kyle Shanahan's type. This is who Kyle Shanahan loves. Kyle Shanahan loved Kirk Cousins in DC. What was he? A really good quarterback who didn't turn the ball over, made big throws when it matters. I hate to do this to Matt Ryan because I love him, but who is Matt Ryan? A really good quarterback who makes big throws when it matters, doesn't turn the ball over. Brock Purdy this season has been a really good quarterback who makes big throws when it matters, does not turn the ball over. That's what everyone thought Jimmy G was because he was 3-1 in 2017 when Tom Brady was suspended. They put him in a starting job, and as much as I love Jimmy G, I have to admit, he is not a really good quarterback who can make big throws when it matters and not turn the ball over. That goes back to Kyle Shanahan because that's the type of quarterback that he likes. Go ahead, Jeremy.
So I'm not shocked that Steezy was making the same point I did because, like myself, Steezy's a genius. So, I mean, that's it's funny because this is the rare Brock Purdy has not only the most to lose, but also in the same time, most to gain, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if he loses, like Steezy was saying, super stacked roster, like Kyle Shanahan, one of the, based on what everybody says, top coaches in the league, whatever number you want to put him at, he's in the top half. Mm-hmm. So everything is on you now, Mr. Brock Purdy. Like if it falls apart, it's going to be because of you. And whether that's fair or not, that's just the way it's going to be perceived. Mm-hmm. That one interception you throw or that one sack you take or that one missed fumble, like they're going, because you're Mr. Irrelevant, it's going to be on you no matter what if you lose this game. But if you win this game, Brock Purdy, the greatest football story ever told. Yeah. Mr. Irrelevant, winning the Super Bowl. And I know that the MVP is a regular season award, but there's a reason why they don't give it out until after the Super Bowl. If Brock Purdy, and the race has been close enough since statistically, if you want to look at it, Brock Purdy's technically the best quarterback in the league, or however, based most of the season anyway. Like they can easily talk themselves into giving Brock Purdy the MVP. So do I think that's fair? No, but I also don't think that Lamar Jackson was heavily favored over Josh Allen, even though Josh Allen shits on him in pretty much every category. He has like 15 more touchdowns and a bunch of other nonsense. But Brock Purdy definitely has most to lose because whether it's fair or not, because he is quote unquote the weak link on a super stacked roster, that because of his draft status, right? I don't know if that's true if he's a 3rd round pick or even a Tom Brady 6th round pick, but because you were literally the last guy taken on the day of the draft that I don't even think they televise, that it's like that's why you have the most to lose, but that's also the reason you have the most to gain. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with him.
I think we're all in agreement that if the Niners win this game, Brock Purdy stands the most to gain.
Yeah.
I've made
by a lot.
By a lot, absolutely. I've made it crystal clear where I stand that if the Niners lose this game, Kyle Shanahan has the most to lose.
Yeah. I think so too.
Who has the most to lose if the Niners lose this game? Is it Kyle Shanahan or is it someone else?
Who has the most to lose? Yeah. If the Niners lose?
Yes.
As I told you, it's Kyle Shanahan. And the reason being in that for you to lose this game, right, it means that you stepped away from the strength of your offense, which again, like you've made mention of it. Christian McCaffrey is not only the best running back in the league, but the reason this offense works is because of all of the pieces that you have that do the exact same thing in different ways, right? So all of them are great after the catch. So you put the ball in their hands and you just get out of the way because they're so great after the catch, whether it's him, whether it's Deebo Samuel, whether it's Juszczyk, whether it's the tight end, George Kittle. And it means that if you have lost this game, you fell in love with your quarterback because now you have a quarterback who has the ability to push the ball downfield, something that Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't do. And you got in love with just pushing the ball down the field to Brandon Ayuk instead of realizing all of your matchups that you have, this matchup advantage you have, because it can assure you right now, right? Spags is really good, and Spags knows he cannot play this team in man-to-man. In no sphere of the game. And I'll show you why. Like, I thought of all the teams in the playoffs so far that played the San Francisco 49ers defensively, and this is not a homer pick, I thought the Packers did it the best. Like, they sat down in the shell, and this is what Joe Barry likes to do, and it just worked out perfectly. Like, you play this too high shell, and everything you keep in front of you. Like, so you're not turning your back away from the ball because you don't want the situation where your backs are turned to Deebo Samuel, your back is turned to Christian McCaffrey, because that's a big game that's going to come. And the moment the one play that the Packers played man, what happened in that game? George Kittle gets a touchdown and a deep throw. It means that, again, I have to believe Spags is going to come in a too high shell and play zone looks all night because he knows he can't match up one-on-one with these players. And that also means you're going to have to give Christian McCaffrey the ball and run the damn football. And if you don't do that, you're going to likely lose, and Steve is going to try and trick you. Sorry, that's a roundabout way of saying 49ers lose. It's going to be Kyle Shanahan overthinking himself and trying all the trick stuff instead of just giving the down ball to Christian McCaffrey and let everything flow off of play action.
I said Brock Purdy, so I already answered this question, did I?
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure. All right.
Okay.